Taking full responsibility. That's not easy. Can you all hear clearly?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you speak in English, Rabbi?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
How do I take full responsibility in all areas of my life, especially at this time in preparation for Rosh Hashanah, the New Year and Yom Kippur, Day of Forgiveness? So here we are standing only a couple of weeks away, 1 week away from Elul, which starts the 40-day period from the beginning of Elul, that special month in preparation for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the 40th day. Where is the number 40 significant in the Torah? 40 years in the Midbar, in the desert. Where else is 40 found in the Torah? The Mabul, the flood was 40 days, 40 nights. The mikveh has 40 quantities of water, 40 se'ah of water. Where else do you find the number 40 in the Torah? Ma'amad HaSinai is 40 days, 40 nights. Moshe Rabbeinu is on Matan Torah at the giving of the Torah for 40 days, 40 nights. Where else do you see 40?
Yitzchak was 40 when he married.
Yitzchak was 40 when he got married. Before a baby is conceived, Ma'ai Imor, in the womb of its mother, takes 40 days till the tzura, the limbs which determine the gender, male or female, are developed. So it takes 40 days for the child's identity as male or female to be identified. Where else do you see 40? That's 31. Do I hear 32? 34? Where else do I see 40? How many? Malkut. How many whips does a person get? 39. It's really 40, but they're in application is studying by 39. But it's, the Torah tells us 40. What's the common theme between each one of these? There's a string that is a common theme between all of them. Same number. That's correct. That's correct. It's a correct answer.
All free.
Like the model is water and the babies.
Okay, a lot of them have to do with water.
Rejuvenation.
Rejuvenation. Excellent. That there's a change, a transformation. Sorry, transformation. There's a switch. Listen carefully. Mabul. You have the flood. What's the first letter of Mabul? Mem. What's the gematria of Mem? The numerical value of Mem is 40. The Mabul, the flood, lasted 40 days, 40 nights, and there was a transformation, a rejuvenation of the entire world. From a world of corruption to a new order, starting again. 40 days and 40 nights, Matan Torah, begins with a Mem. And what's the transformation over there? Before the giving of the Torah, the world was only existing on God's kindness. But now, the Jewish people received God's instructions for mankind through the Torah itself, transformation. A person gets 40 whips. Hopefully, they transform themselves after 39, 40 whips. Not in all cases, but hopefully, it's an internal change. A person enters the mikveh, the pool of water, which has 40 sa'ah, 40 quantities of water. They enter tameh, spiritually impure, and come out tahor, pure, transformation, rejuvenation. 40 years in the desert, the Jewish people. Midbar, same letter, mem. We're 40 years in the desert. We transform ourselves from slaves to Paro, to Pharaoh, and we become Avdei Hashem, servants to Hashem. Transformation. Ma'ai imor. The child is in the womb of its mother, and there's no identity. Once the limbs that identify male or female develop, now there's transformation from a zero, a non-entity, to an identity. So the concept of mem, of 40, is rejuvenation, transformation. And it's interesting, the Vilna Gaon tells us that the first time a letter appears in the Torah, at the beginning of a word, that word is the essence of that letter. It's a Gemara in Bava Kama, page 55. And Rabbi Tzadok quotes the Vilna Gaon explaining that the first time a letter appears in the Torah at the beginning of a word, that word is the essence of that letter. The first time the letter Mem appears in the Torah is in the word Mayim. Mayim is an interesting word. You can read it both ways. It still reads Mayim. Mayim, water, has a special property. It exists in how many states? 3 states. What are the 3 states? Who said California? No. I'm talking about chemically speaking. The chemical structure of water is either in fluid, solid, or gas. Interesting. Water is constantly changing because the temperature in and outside of the water changes it's always changing its shape to whatever the container it's in, but it's also changing its state based on temperature and conditions, so it's constantly changing. So see the consistency here. Mem represents change. 40 represents change. Elul starts this next week, the 30 days of Elul, 10 days of Rosh Hashanah, Tishri, till Yom Kippur. These are 40 days of change. What does that mean? That God created the universe and completed it on the 6th day. And we start counting the Jewish calendar from the 6th day, not from the 1st day. Why the 6th day? Why don't we count the Jewish calendar Rosh Hashanah? The New Year is a celebration not of the 1st day of creation, the 6th day of creation. That's when we count the beginning of the year. Why not the 1st day? Adam, as in mankind, Adam was created on the 6th day. The purpose of the entire universe was for planet Earth. The purpose of the entire planet Earth, with all the gravity, water, landforms, mountains, valleys, the clouds, rainfall, all the elements in creation are for mankind to survive. So the purpose of the entire creation is Rosh Hashanah. And what are we celebrating? The physical creation of man? Is that what we're celebrating? What's the purpose of man? His physical existence?
To serve Hashem.
To serve Hashem. We always have at least one religious fanatic in every audience. Okay. I'm only joking. How a human being exists to serve Hashem. How do we serve Hashem? What power did God give us that enables us to change ourselves? What is that power? Bechira, free will. The celebration of Rosh Hashanah is not just the 6th day of creation, because that's when mankind was created. You can't say he was born, because Adam was FFC, from creation. He didn't have a choice to blame his parents. It just didn't work. So Adam, the celebration of Rosh Hashanah, this is the day man was created, not physically. That's not the purpose of creation. The purpose of man's existence is to make choices, bechira, free will, to choose. Now here's an interesting question. Language, Lashon HaKodesh, this is a perfect language. Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, created existence. God first created the letters of the alphabet, and with those letters created existence. So that the alphabet, the letters, not only created reality, but continue to create reality. What is the word in Hebrew for responsibility, for bechira, for free will?
Struggles.
Achrayut could mean, in modern Hebrew, achrayut means responsibility. Bechira means what? Free will. Choice. Bechira means what I want. There's a different word for what I need. What's the difference between wanting and needing? Is it the same thing? Not at all. What I want and what I need are not the same thing. They are both part of bechira, of free will, of choices. But they're 2 different levels of choice. I want to lose weight. I want to be a more loving spouse. I want to be more responsible with money. I want to be more giving in this marriage. I want to be more sensitive to my mother-in-law. So just swallowing, sorry. I have a friend, he lives on the 4th floor. He was screaming, "Help! Help!" So I said, "What's the matter?" I said, "My mother-in-law." So what happened to your mother-in-law? I said, "She needs help." I said, "Why?" "She's trying to jump off the balcony to commit suicide." I said, "What do you mean? Help her? You should try and stop her." No. The window's stuck and she can't get it open. Anyway, actually, I have an excellent relationship with my mother-in-law. The first time she came into our driveway for Yom Tov, so she came out with all her luggage, and I was a good son-in-law, so I came out and I said, "Dear mother-in-law, how long do you plan to stay?" So she was very sensitive. She said, "As long as I'm wanted." I said, "Oh, that means you're not staying for coffee?" Okay, never mind. So anyway, just joking. So what I want and what I need may be two different things. What's the difference between saying I want to lose weight versus I need to lose weight? What's the difference? Is it just words, or is there a big difference in my plan of action, my level of commitment? Do you hear the difference? I want to be a more loving spouse. I want to be a more sensitive parent. I need. Two different levels. You hear that? But that's not the highest level of bechira. Bechira means free will. It means responsibility, ability to respond. How I respond to what happens to me in my life. The lowest level is what I want. That's bechira. The next level is bakasha, what I need. The highest level is ratzon. Ratzon doesn't mean want or need. Ratzon is a totally different meaning. It means must have. I'll prove it to you. I walk towards the camera, so I want to go from A to B. But if you see me walking much more deliberately, you see I need to get there. Does that make sense? But if I'm running to somewhere, what does that say? I must get there. If you're running, Ratz is the 2-letter root of Ratzon. Ratzon, in its 2-letter root, is Ratz. What does Ratz mean? Run. Why? Because what is Ratzon? What is real free will? The highest level expression of bechira, of responsibility, taking responsibility, is when something is on a must level. Because this reveals to me what really matters the most. Do I need to lose weight? Do I want to lose weight? Or is it I must lose weight? Do I want to take responsibility in this marriage? Do I need to take responsibility in this marriage? Or I must take responsibility for being more sensitive, more loving, more listening, more giving, more understanding, more respectful, less accusative, less hurtful, less spiteful, less sarcasm. Which level is it? Is it I want, is it I need, or is it a must? And we will see that whenever we made a serious change in our lives, it wasn't because we wanted or needed, but we reached a point where we said, I must change. That is what real responsibility is. It may be a process. It may take weeks, months, or years. And here's the interesting part. Rosh Hashanah is called the day of judgment. And who's judging who? God is judging us. How does God judge us? What does He decide? How does He decide how my year is going to be? What's He decided upon? What's the criteria? How does God judge me? Based on what? On my record. What is my record? My actions. What type of actions? My free will, how I express my actions. What level? I get up extra early to pray. I'm a little bit more tired. If I'm more tired, am I less likely or more likely to get angry? If I'm tired, am I going to be more efficient or less efficient at work? It's very possible I'll be less efficient. That's very trying. That's a nisayon. That's not easy. That's a test. God wants me to demonstrate how strong is my ratzon. How strong is my must to be a better spouse, more loving parent? How strong is my must in the dating process, going out with a boy, going out with a girl? How strong is my must to look for the good that already exists in that person? Or am I just thinking about, I hope this works out. The door rings and here's the next date. Hi. Excuse me. Where's the shotgun? Right? Of course, this doesn't relate to any of you, but some of you who are friends know what I'm talking about. How do I enter the date? Is it I want to look for the good, I need to look for the good, or I must? And who is it about? Is it really about looking for the good in you, or is it really training my mind to become a kinder, more thoughtful, sensitive, giving, generous, understanding, empathic, compassionate, loving, appreciative, grateful person? The real purpose of dating is for me to change. The only person I was created to change. And the most important dating is not before the marriage. That's easy. Even though that's hard, it's easy. The hardest part is dating after marriage. Same wife, by the way, same husband. It's easy to get married. That's the easy part. I know it's not easy for everybody, but that's the easy part. The hard part is staying married. That's much harder. Let me ask you, which is easier? Making a lot of money or maintaining wealth? Which is easier? It's much harder to maintain wealth. Which is easier? To bring a child into this world or raise that child? Oh, it's much harder to raise a child. Which is easier? Build a home or maintain the home? It's much harder. It's hard to build a home, but that's nothing in comparison to paying the bills and maintaining the home. Maintenance is always a much greater level of success than the apparent glitter of getting married, bringing a kid into the world, making money. Maintenance, kiyum in Hebrew. Kiyum is much greater. And kiyum is all about process. And the world we live in is stuck on process or results. What is the world interested in? The world we live in. Results. They're not interested in process. Quick fix. Lose weight fast. Ladies, help me. Gentlemen, help me. Which is greater? Which is a greater accomplishment? To lose weight or maintain the loss? Which is harder? It's much harder. Gentlemen, you heard that? It's much harder to maintain the loss. That's much harder. Maintenance is a much greater accomplishment. Kiyum. That's why, I've taken a second, that's why there's a very interesting Mishnah, which unfortunately many times is misquoted. It says, Kol hamatzil nefesh achat miYisrael. Anyone who saves a single Jew, ki'ilu mikayim olam maleh. So though he's established an entire world. Because one person will give birth to many, and all those children will be because of the one person that was saved. But the Mishnah doesn't say saved. It doesn't say saved. It says kol hamikayim nefesh achat. Saving a person, that looks very, very impressive. But you know what's much harder? Who's going to hold their hand? Who's going to maintain? Who's going to visit? Who's going to build that person? Who's going to be their friend? Who's going to hold their hand and see them through their challenges in marriage, in raising children? Kiyum is much greater. So you have a question? A comment?
Question, just as a cute statement on what you said.
Yes.
What's easier, making love or maintaining the love?
What's easier, falling in love or maintaining the love? It's much harder to maintain love. And that brings to a slightly different question which relates to this. Where does God command us to love? Where? Which mitzvah? Love your neighbor like you love yourself. Now here's my question. How can God command us to love someone? Can I command my son to love me? If he does, right now he's upset, he's angry with me. Can I command my spouse? I command you, in the name of God, you must love me. You have to love me. How will you respond? I don't feel like loving you.
There's the door.
How does God command me to love? What's the answer? Love is not an emotion. The non-Jewish world will have me believe love is an emotion. It's not really an emotion. The emotion we call love is the result of a scientific formula. God is commanding me to look for reasons that will cause me to feel love towards you. God is commanding me to look for the good already in my wife, already in my husband, that will cause me to feel the expression, the emotion we call love. Love is a very specific formula. And if I change the formula, I get a different result. Falling in love is easy, but not letting go of the virtues, the qualities that I originally fell in love with my spouse for, that's hard. Because marriage, in the words of Rabbi Victor Milatzal, is like standing in front of a mirror with a magnifying glass in between. Because when we get married, we get close to our spouse, they get close to us, and they see us very close with all the kinks, all the mistakes in our character. I can't hide myself. Maybe I can manage for a few weeks into the marriage, maybe. But eventually it's going to come out. So what does God say? Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. What's the two-letter root of reacha, which is translated as neighbor or friend? What's the two-letter root of reacha? Ra! What does ra mean? Bad! Isn't that a strange choice? Why doesn't the Torah tell us, love chaverecha, your friend? Why does it use the language of reacha, where the two-letter root means bad? Rabbeinu Yonah, Shar Gimel, in Sha'arei Teshuvah, gives an amazing explanation. Very simple. If I want only good in you, dear husband, dear wife, dear child, dear mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother, if I only want to see the good in everybody, what's going to happen when you're not always good? Then what? If my expectation is that you're going to be the perfect husband, the perfect wife, perfect mother-in-law, perfect father-in-law, perfect boss, perfect child, what have I actually prepared myself for? What have I planned for? Simcha, joy, or total frustration? Seriously. If my expectation is that you're going to be good in every aspect of this relationship, is that realistic? So comes along the Torah and reminds me that a human being has in them... Thank you. Is it okay if I say it at the end, or should I mention it now? The end? Yeah. Okay. Comes along the Torah and goes out of its way to say that there's no human being that doesn't make a mistake. God expects me to be human. He expects me to foul up. He expects me to make mistakes. What are the two mitzvot in the Torah that prove that God expects me to make mistakes in marriage, with my child, with myself? Two mitzvot which prove God expects me to make mistakes. Teshuvah. There's a mitzvah of teshuvah. Teshuvah means to change myself, change direction. If God gives me a mitzvah of teshuvah, what's the predicate? What's the assumption? I first have to make mistakes in order to do teshuvah. So the mitzvah depends on me making mistakes. Interesting. What's the other mitzvah? Korbanot. That's also one. I'm looking for two that are still in nowadays. I'll give you a clue. It's a day in the Jewish calendar. Yom Kippur. Why does God give us a day for cleaning myself out and asking forgiveness from my friends, my family, from my Creator? Why? Because He expects me to make mistakes. So comes along the Torah and tells me, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your friend even with the bad that's in them. Because if I'm looking for a perfect friend, a perfect spouse, a perfect child, guess what? How long will I be looking? A long time. That's not realistic. Hashem wants me to look for the good. He knows that there's going to be bad in me and others, but he still wants me to love the good that's already in that person. So I could easily fall out of love if I don't maintain inventory. Keep a list of the reasons why you are good in this marriage. This child is still good, even though externally they may be playing out. Undisciplined, chutzpah, defiance. Hashem is giving me a 40-day period to demonstrate that I'm willing to change me. Because God is not judging me based on His judgment. What's He judging me on? You see, really God is judging me based on what?
What do you do?
What do I do? How will I change me? And based on that, how strong is my commitment, need, want, or must in my marriage with this child, in my finances to spend less than I earn? Am I allowed to spend more than I earn? In Jewish law, am I allowed to borrow money that I have no plan of how to pay back? And yet we're living in a generation where, with credit cards, am I able to buy items I actually don't have the money for? Is that amazing? Is that amazing? What did your grandparents, what did our grandparents do if they couldn't afford something? They didn't buy it. Or they saved. Or they did without something, saying, let's free the money up from this item and save it for something of greater value, maybe the education of our children. But today, if I can't afford something, what do? I charge it. Never in world history have we been able to buy things we don't need. With money we don't have. To impress people we don't like. Am I exaggerating? How will I take responsibility financially to buy items I can afford and have a plan of how to pay it back instead of the minimum every month? Because if I pay anywhere between minimum due and the full amount, the average American in this country pays how much for a product bought with a credit card? Any idea? Between 400% and 600% the original price. The average American who does not pay in full at the end of the month pays somewhere between minimum due and the full amount. By the time he's finished paying off for any single item bought with a credit card, will have paid somewhere between 400% and 600% the original price. Is that a bargain? That's a lot of money. Whoa! Servicing debt. Servicing debt. Could that spill over into the marriage? Could that mean less time for one's children, for our own health, for giving attention to ourselves? Taking responsibility financially is not just about money. It spills over into my health. True or false? Can financial stress spill over into health? Absolutely. Could it spill over into less time for the spouse, for our own children? I'm busy now. I'm building up them. I have to pay the bills. I have to work. Who's going to work? My wife and I, about 3 years ago, I was holding 2.5 jobs, and my wife was busy with carpools and appointments with the children, doctors and everything else. We said, this is getting ridiculous. We're moving further and further apart. We hardly have any time to see each other. So we made a commitment, must have. We said, we have to make time every week. So we made a commitment to go out twice a week, every week. And last 3 years, never missed once. I go up Mondays, she goes up Thursdays. No, really, if I don't make time for the things that matter the most, our own children, our own health, if I don't make time for exercise, if I don't make time to eat slowly, in the words of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, in Perek Lamed Bet, Halacha Yud Gimel, eating slowly, chewing food and chewing till it's liquid and then swallowing, has 3 major benefits. Benefit number 1. Any suggestions? End up eating less. Scientifically proven, if a person chews to the point of liquid, their stomach will be full 1/3 sooner. Why? You reach satiation, you feel full 1/3 sooner than if I eat food and without chewing it to liquid, swallow food partially whole. What's the scientific explanation for that?
The chemical takes certain time to reproduce to tell you that you're full.
And so my brain, what happens to my brain when I consult my brain? Brain, is there room for one more king-size burger? And my brain says, yes. Stomach says there's still room. But what happens after a couple of bites? What happened? A few moments ago, I consulted my brain. Brain said, yes, there's room. Stomach said, yes, there's room. I went to the counter, ordered another king size, and within 1 or 2 bites, I'm feeling full. Because my stomach hasn't fully received all the food and broken it down yet. And so it's giving a false report, not deliberately. But if a person chews to the point of liquid, the stomach gives an accurate reading immediately. We reach satiation, feeling full, 1/3 sooner. It's natural dieting. Benefit number 2 of chewing food to liquid is
Digestion.
digestion. It's kinder to digestion. Where does digestion actually begin? In our mouths. The saliva already has enzymes which breaks the food down in the mouth. Our teeth are doing the repetitive action of breaking the food down. So by the time it reaches the stomach, if we have exposed the food, we've broken it into many pieces, we are exposing more surface area to the saliva. The enzymes are reacting with the food and starting to break it down in the mouth. Digestion starts over here. So by the time it reaches the stomach has less work to do. It's less taxing on the stomach. So it's kinder to digestion. Benefit number 3. It's interesting. Usually it's always benefit number 3, same one.
Less money spent on food.
Less money spent on food. That's a major benefit. Never thought of that. Excellent. You enjoy your food more. If the food is in my mouth and exposed to the taste buds for more time, will I have less or more pleasure? I'll have more pleasure. So I actually end up enjoying the food more. And here I am, trying to finish the cookie as soon as I can. As the last cookie on the plate. 1 second. Why am I busy focusing on the cookie I haven't yet eaten, where there's still a cookie in my mouth? I'm not focusing on the pleasure, because I'm trying to swallow it down fast enough to get another. What's going on over here? In the fast food generation, am I taking responsibility for my health by buying food which has a lot of processing, additives, coloring, artificial flavors? In many food products, there's more nutrition in the package than the actual food. We have a serious problem. We're living in a generation that's not interested in us. It's interested in their pockets. And therefore, food today is really not the same food as it used to be. If I chew it to liquid, I can get away with eating unhealthy foods. According to Maimonides, if a person undereats, they can even get away with excellent health even if they eat unhealthy foods, versus overeating only healthy foods. Because overeating is a much worse condition than undereating unhealthy foods. That's Maimonides. Perek Daled, Hilchot De'at and Laws of Thinking, in, I think it's Halacha Tetvav, Yudaled and Tetvav. Halacha 14 and 15. Very interesting. Claims Maimonides, if a person does 3 things, he guarantees excellent health. We're talking about taking responsibility. What can I do teshuvah for? That if I change me, God is going to judge me differently. God judges me based on my actions, based on my choices, on what level of choice. So let me ask you, who's really judging me? Who determines my judgment? Is it really God? Or is it really me? God is judging me based on me. So who controls the compass, the direction that my life goes in? If I choose to put my son down, to not give affection to my daughter, have I made a one-time choice, or have I also chosen that this son will reject me? And if I make the choice not once but twice, 3, 4, 5, 100, 600, 700 times in a year, thousands of times, why would I be surprised that my child doesn't want a connection with the father, with the mother? Why would I be surprised if I don't give love and affection to my daughter? Why would I be surprised if the first young man that takes an interest in her, and he's got his own agenda, which is about him and not really about her, that she falls in love thinking this is real? The only male, the only man that she can have any physical contact is the father. If I don't hug and show my child love, is it possible she might go elsewhere? If I don't show sensitivity, understanding to my child, if I don't teach the adult world and warn my children about safety, these are the private parts of your body. Any adult or anybody who touches you in these private, you know straight away something is wrong. I don't have to scare my kid, but just warn them that the world out there is not 100% clean. And many people's minds are not 100% clean. If I don't warn my child, take responsibility for the gift God has given me of my child, where will my child get the information? On the streets? In the corridors of schools? From a roommate? Who am I expecting to teach to my child the facts of life if I don't take the responsibility of sharing with my child information so that they know that the 4-letter word that the world uses as a curse word, we have a word called kiddushin, which means holiness, sanctity. That the greatest and most sanctified act between a man and a woman, we call holiness, kiddushin. The world uses a 4-letter word as a curse word. Lahavdil. What a difference. If I don't explain to my child before he hears it from the street, is it possible that I'm not taking full responsibility? Maybe 10, 20 years ago, we waited until the children were much older. But today, with internet, iPods, with pornography, with sick minds, if I don't reach my child, who am I waiting for? There was a 9-year-old boy. I was telling parents about the importance to explain the facts of life while the kids are still young. So they get it from the parents and not from the street. So one father said to his 9-year-old son, we have to have a man-to-man talk. It's important, and I need to talk to you about it. It's very important. So he's sitting his 9-year-old son next to him on his lap, whatever, and he's spending about 15 minutes trying to get the words out of his mouth until finally he says, it's something that I, as a father, really have to share with you. It's a man-to-man type of conversation. And finally gets the words out. I heard, son, I have to teach you the facts of life. So his 9-year-old looks up to his dad and says, sure, Dad, what do you want to know? See, we're living in a generation where the kids are exposed to so much more information on any and every subject. I, as a parent, have to take responsibility to reach them first. I have to take responsibility for being sensitive and loving. If I don't listen to their questions, if I put them down for asking questions, that's a stupid question. What happened to your brain to ask such a question? And yet our sages tell us in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, Ein habaishan lamed. A child that's shy, afraid to ask questions, will not learn. My responsibility as a parent, as a teacher, is never make a question wrong. Let a child feel safe to ask any question on any subject, because if I don't make the child safe, or if I make them feel stupid or silly or unintelligent, what will happen to their mind when they have a question? Will they come to me? No, they won't feel safe to. And they may not ask the question, or they'll save it for someone who seems to have a good ear, and maybe that person's good, maybe that person is not good. I, as a parent, I, as a teacher, have a responsibility for my student, for my child. Ein habaishan lamed. A child will not learn from me if I don't make it safe for them to ask any question on any subject. And many times a child asks a question which looks silly, actually is not silly at all. Because if I ask the child, why are you asking the question? What's behind your question? Many times they will be able to explain the logic that's going through their brain that helps me understand the question is a good question. I don't know if I shared this with you, but about a year ago, I'm an educational consultant. I work with parents with different situations with kids. So one parent called me up. Her son was sent home because he had asked his teacher her age. And she gave him a look, a little bit. And what did he do? Instead of reading her body language, this 8-9-year-old boy repeated the question. This was too much. And no, go to the principal. She goes to the principal. Principal heard the question, and she herself was like, you can't ask your mother her age. So she called out the mother and said, please, could you talk to your son about the inappropriateness of asking a mother her age? So she called me out, the mother calls me up and asked me how to talk to the son. So I said, well, before you talk to him, what question should we ask? Why did you ask your mother, your teacher, her age? So she calls over, we'll call him Moshe. Moshe! And now there I'm listening to the phone, true story. Moshe, why did you ask your teacher her age? So he says, well, she's my favorite teacher. And I overheard her conversation with the assistant that it's her birthday, so I made her birthday card, and I didn't know what number to put on the front. Yeah. See, is it possible that when a child asks a question, I need to not read the surface question and simply ask, where's the question coming from, so that I understand the question? Is it possible I could shut the kid down and make them afraid of asking a question in the future, when really they're only asking out of affection, out of love, out of appreciation? That's an unusual example. It's not a fair example, but I'm just giving a simple demonstration where children must never feel unsafe in asking a question on any subject, because it could cost them their life. It could cost them their emotional health. So we've talked a little bit about financial responsibility, a little bit about physical health responsibility. We've talked a little bit about responsibility as a parent. Let's talk a little bit more about marriage. Are you ready? Are you ready for marriage? Okay. Marriage is not a word. It's a sentence. Just a joke. It's just a joke. I'm not sure who's laughing more, the men or the women on that one. Okay. All right. Marriage is a very interesting invention. Why did God invent marriage? And the answer is, it's an assignment. It's a test. The purpose of life is one long test. All of my life, raising children, being single, being married, having kids, not having kids, having a boss, a difficult boss, having co-workers, difficult co-workers, difficult clients. Everything is all about, what will I change out of myself? How will I change me? God is not interested in me changing you. He's not interested. And what's the proof? And here's my question. A quick show of hands. How many people in this room are actually married? Yep, excellent. Okay. So here's my question. To those in this room who are married, how many of you knows in your personal experience a spouse who successfully changed their spouse by trying to change them? No one. Okay. I'll make the question much easier. How many people do you know in world history that succeeded in changing their spouse by trying to change them? Zero. It never happened. And if they did change, was it real change? No, probably I'm scared of her anger, her rage. That's not real change. We want real change, inside out, not outside in. Because if it's not real change, what will my spouse do the second I turn my back? They'll do what they want anyway. The second I turn my back on my kid, what will my kid do if my change in the way I change my kid is I force them? What will my kid do the moment I turn my back? Whatever they want anyway. That's not Bechira. That's not free will. How does God deal with our free will? Does He punish me every and each time I make a mistake? No. What does He do? What does He do? He gives me another chance. And if I blow it another time, what does God do? Gives me another chance. And if I blow it 3 times, what will He do then? 4 times, what will He do then? Why does God keep on? One of God's names is Erech Apayim. Erech means long, Apayim means nostrils, long nostrils. What does that mean? Erech Apayim, when a person is not getting angry, but containing it, what happens to their nostrils? Can you all see? Erech Apayim means long nostrils. Why do we call Hashem Erech Apayim? Because Hashem is containing. Erech Af letzadikim, Erech Af lerashaim. God is patient with both the righteous when they make mistakes and with the wicked when they make mistakes. Why? What's the basis of God's patience? Because He trusts we have the ability to figure out how to change ourselves. He will not openly interfere with my bechira, with my free will. He'll give me signs and signals. He'll calculate perfectly different and difficult parents, parents-in-law, children, spouse, co-workers, boss, neighbors, teachers, family, extended family. We cover everybody. God calculates different and difficult people not to hurt me, but to squeeze me. Well, it hurts when you squeeze me. What's the point of squeezing me? To see what comes out. Oh, God's in the business of squeezing. God is a squeezer. He squeezes not to hurt, to see what comes out. Now, does God need to know what comes out? What comes out when I'm squeezed? Whatever's inside. If I'm angry and bitter, and I am focused on what I don't like about you, my child, my spouse, my kids, my coworker, my boss, my career, myself, and I get squeezed, what will come out? Anger, bitterness, resentment. If I'm focusing on what's good in me, in you, in my life, in my wife, in my husband, in my wealth, in my health, in my children, in my family, and I get squeezed, what will come out? Gratitude, appreciation, loyalty, commitment, devotion. Oh. Why does God squeeze me? He knows what's going to come out. So who's He squeezing me for? He wants to see what I see comes out. To see if I'm going to like what I see. Or am I going to make a change? God is in the business of squeezing. He wants me to be squeezed, not to hurt me, to see what comes out of me, to see, will I change the person that I am to a better, more loving, kind, affectionate, understanding, listening, compassionate, loyal, respectful, appreciative, grateful, admiring, giving, forgiving, generous, sensitive. Long list of all that God wants to squeeze out of me. And how many chances will He give me? Each time He squeezes me, if I come out with the same anger, same rage, same bitterness, same sarcasm, same put down, same comparisons, you're just like your mother. Not you personally, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to wake you up, I'm sorry. And I start comparing you to other people in the family, extended family. God is interested in seeing what comes out when I'm squeezed. So He'll squeeze me again and again and again to see if I change the only person I was created to change. And here's my biggest question of all. I don't know who was in this audience in previous presentations when I asked this question. So I'm going to ask you to forgive me. There are about, I don't know, Reb Shimon, how many people are in the room approximately? 200? Okay. And the average age here is about 25. Is that right, ladies? About 25? 20? 20. Sorry, 20. Okay. What's 200 times 20? 4,000. Is that right? So in this room, in this Beit HaKnesset, there is 4,000 years of accumulative life experience. Is that right? It might be a little bit more, but let's say the average is 20. You're okay with that? Yeah? 20 times 200 is 4,000. In this room, there's 4,000 years of accumulative life experience. How many people in this room of your 4,000 years of accumulative life experience will answer the following question? I'm giving you two options. What will make two people happy in marriage? Two people happy as parents of this child? Two people happy, boss and worker. Is it how similar we are to our spouse? How similar we are to our children? How similar we are to our boss? To our friends? To our parents? Is that what will make us most happy? Option one. Option two. Not how similar or less different, but how well we get along with the differences. what comes out when the differences squeeze us. Which of the two will make us most happy? How similar we are and less different, or how we respond to the differences? How we respond. I asked this question in Kutchers about 2-3 years ago, in the middle days of Pesach. There were about 400 people in the audience. The average age was about 107. Actually, I exaggerate. It's probably about close to 85. There was one lady, she was 104. Very bright, very with it. She was asked, what's special about your age? She said, no peer pressure. Good. So the average age was about 85. I pretended it was 50. The ladies were very happy with that. So I said, let's assume that the average age in the audience is 50 and there's 400 people in this room. What's 400 times 50? 20,000. You want to take a vote? You can take a vote if you want. Okay, 20,000. So I said to him, in your 20,000 years of accumulative life experience, you had grandparents and great-grandparents in that room. You had people who've been through the First World War, let alone the Second World War. One man said, I'm married 63 years. That's a long time. That's a long sentence. So, long word. So, you have people in that audience mature. They've seen life, they've seen death. And I asked them the same question. In your 20,000 years of accumulative life experience, what counts the most? How similar we are, or how we change inside of ourselves to become more respectful of differences, loving, comforting, understanding, forgiving? Is it how similar we become and less different, or how we learn to get along with the differences? Guess how many people in that audience said it's number one. It's how much I succeed in becoming like you or making you like me that will make me happy. Guess how many people said that? 0. Isn't that telling? Average age in that room was easily 75, 80, 85. People with at least 20,000 years of cumulative life experience. Not one person said that what counts the most in life is finding someone who's like me. And here's my shocking statement. Are you ready? What's going to matter most? Who I marry? Or who am I entering the marriage? Because whoever you marry, guess what? Will you be married to the exact same person 2 years later, 5 years later? Or do we change? Is there anyone in this room who would say that I am the same person today as I was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Everyone changes. Is that right? So the person you're going to marry anyway is not going to stay the same person. So what matters the most? The list of all that I'm looking for in my spouse? It's a nice list, but it's not going to help much. You know why? Because whoever I marry is going to change anyway. Even if I check off on the list, on a 0 to 10 scale, 0 is the least, 10 is the most, that everything I'm looking for is 10 out of 10 on everything. Looks, money, family, happy, good-hearted, kind, considerate, respectful, giving, understanding, generous, appreciative, grateful, devoted, whatever you want on that list. Whatever you want. 10 items, 20, 30, 40 items. Pretend you meet someone that it has everything you're looking for on that list. And you score 10 out of 10 on every single item. Let me ask you, will that guarantee happy marriage? Why not? Because the moment we're married, situations will surface that you and I had 0 expectation of this happening. A child is born. Husband and wife have 2 completely different ways of disciplining this child. Twins are born. One kid responds very well to discipline. The other one, very defiant. One is very cooperative. The other one just turns off, becomes very defiant. I need 2 different ways of dealing with this kid. Is it possible that even though we checked off everything on the list, and guess what? My spouse thinks I've got everything she's looking for. Now we're really in trouble. Because the first time something surfaces that will bring out a difference and we are now being squeezed, I'm not married to the same person. Who are you? And the answer is, God never promised me a rose garden. God is not in the business of making me happy. God is in the business of giving me all sorts of situations for me to decide what comes out of me. Will happiness come out? Or complaints? Will kind words come out? Or accusations? Will appreciation come out? Or blaming? Will admiration come out? And I say to my spouse, you know what I've been thinking? I can't judge you. If I had what you've been through, I don't think I may have committed suicide. I would not be here. I would be a basket case. If I had what you went through with your parents and your siblings, I don't know how I would have survived it. Is it possible that my job is not to judge, but to judge favorably? Because I don't know how I would have done in the same situation. The purpose of a test, nisayon, the purpose of a test is for not God to see what comes out of me, for me to see what comes out of me. My parents don't shape me. My spouse doesn't shape me. My friends and culture do not shape me. They reveal me to me. My spouse is in the business of squeezing, because that's what God does. He sends different and difficult people to squeeze me. He's in the business of revealing me to me, so that I get to make a choice. Shall I change? Will I change? And what level is that change? Is it I want to, or I need to, or I must? In my relationships, in my marriage, with my kid, in the dating. I'm not dating to find the right person. That's bonus. I'm dating to find how strong will I be. Because you know what's going to matter the most in whoever I marry. Not the person I marry, but who will I be in that relationship? Will I still be listening, compassionate, forgiving, generous, understanding, sensitive, empathic, compassionate? When a different comes out? When you might say a harsh word, or an insult, or an unkind word, or a put down, or sarcasm, or comparison? What will come out of me when, not if, when you lose it and you get upset? Will I be angry? Will I accuse you back? Will I blame you back? Will I complain about my list of your crimes that you've done to me? Will I deny my responsibility and give excuses for why it's your fault? A, accuse. B, blame. C, complain. D, deny. E, give excuses. I call it the A, B, C, D, E of getting out of responsibility. My job is to work on one person, and one person only. The only person I'm capable of changing. And when I change me, you are no longer in the same relationship. My child is not dealing with the same dad, same mum. My spouse is no longer dealing with the same husband, same wife. So they respond differently. So if I really want to affect change, if I really want to solicit change, the real way to do it is change the only person I can change. So that people around me will respond differently. God judges me on Rosh Hashanah based on how I change me. How I'm showing in the 40 days of transformation, Elul to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. What will come out of me? How much effort will I employ to become a more careful with my words, more loving with my words, more appreciative, more grateful with my words to the people in my life? My spouse, my kids, my parents-in-law, myself. How much love, looking for the good, will I command of myself? It's not who I marry, it's who am I entering the marriage that counts the most. Because when, not if, when you blow it, when you lose it, it's going to hang on, how will I respond? Will I come out with my list of your crimes, accusations, blaming, complaining, denying? Guess what that will do? Spiral the relationship down. Or will I ask forgiveness? Or try and listen? Or keep quiet? Or maybe use humor to defuse the situation? How will I respond? What will come out of me? God's in the business of revealing me to me. I'll close on first the dedications and then on the bottom line. This evening was dedicated, I'll give you the list, for Refuah Shelema, for the following 3 people. Jana bat Miriam, Brindle bat Yosef Halevi, and Salha bat Habiba. And it's also in memory, any zechut, any merit that either the audience here or people listening have in terms of us changing ourselves will be in a zechut, Refuah Shlema of Jana bat Miriam, Brindle bat Yosef Halevi, Habiba bat Salha bat Habiba, and in memory of Ronit bat Anna, Menashe ben Shini, and Chana bat Shini. May they all have Refuah Shlema and Ilui leNishmatam. Amen. I want to close on the word Nisayon. What does Nisayon mean? Test. But what is the 2-letter root of Nisayon? Nes. What does Nes mean? Flag. Excellent. Miracle. What else does Nes mean? Nisa means elevate. What else does Nes mean? Escape. Excellent. Ribbon Shalala, Master of the Universe. Make up your mind. You have unlimited imagination. In English, you've got 1 word for test, 1 word for escape, 1 word for elevate, 1 word for flag, and 1 word for miracle. Why do you have 1 word that has 5 different meanings? And the answer is, there are no mistakes in this language. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. God spoke and then the world existed. God created the universe, reality, with this language. There are no mistakes. When we look at the word Nisayon and identify it has 5 meanings, what we are looking at are the 5 ingredients that make up Nisayon. What is a test? What's the purpose of a test? The test is there to squeeze me, to see what comes out. Because what comes out is a flag. What's the purpose of a flag? What is a nest? What does a flag do? It gives me direction. It shows me identity. It identifies me. This is who I am. But is this who I want to stay as? Or do I want to change me? Nest means a flag, but it also means nisa, elevate. Because I have 2 choices. Either to elevate myself and say no to food that I don't need, to say no to food that is not healthy, to say yes to spending less than I earn. I'll repeat that. To say yes to spending less than I earn and spending the difference on items of special value. Saying yes for things of greater value in the future by saying no to immediate gratification. Being in control, taking responsibility for my life is elevating me. How do we feel when we give in to food that we know is not good for us? How do we feel afterwards? Proud or empty? I feel I shortchanged myself. How do I feel after I really badmouthed this person and really didn't... I know I was doing it from anger, from hatred, from jealousy. How do I feel about myself? Do I feel proud? No. How do I feel after I lost control of my emotions and I just go, you remind me of everything that's terrible in this world. I can't stand your guts. No one here can relate to any of this. Some of you friends know what I'm talking about. When I blow it and I lose control of myself, how do I feel afterwards? Oh, I feel so good. It's so wonderful. I get off my chest. How do we feel? Do I feel proud of myself? I feel really... In your eyes, what happens when I lose my cool? When I get angry, my esteem is increased or decreased? You have less respect, not more. When I'm out of control and don't take responsibility for my life, I shortchange myself. When we say no to the chocolate, well, that's not a good example. I don't want to say no. No, I don't want to say no to chocolate. When I say no to a second box of chocolate, why are you laughing? Oh, you thought I was joking? Okay, fine. So, when I say no to what I know is not good for me, how do we feel afterwards? How I missed out on it, or do I feel proud? I feel stronger. I feel elevated. The word nes means elevated. But the same word also means escape. Because I can escape from what God wants me to do by repeating the same recipe again and again and again. I'm really escaping. Because by blaming you, complaining about you, angry at you, accusing you, denying it's my fault, giving excuses why it's your fault, I'm focusing on who has to change. You have to change, not me. Oh, so the purpose of A, accusing, B, blaming, C, complaining, D, denying, E, excusing, is to get out of responsibility of changing. The only person that was created to change. And focus only on everyone else, the world, terrorism, people, community, friends, family. It's their fault that I haven't moved ahead in my life. I gave you the best years of my life. And when I blame other people, what I'm really doing is saying, it's your fault. You have to change. So God says, don't run away, don't flee, don't escape by blaming others. The only person I'm here to change is me. And now we come to the last ingredient. Nes means miracle. The greatest miracle in human history. Creation of the universe. I think that would have been very impressive. If you and I stood watching the universe unfold, I think you agree with our blood vessels will burst from excitement. If we stood at Kriyat Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, if we stood and saw the Makot, the plagues, water turn to blood, if we stood at Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, and heard God speak to us, whoa, that's pretty impressive. Those miracles impress us. But here's the same question turned around. God, what would impress you that you would say, wow, that's a miracle? When a human being changes themselves, when I change my nature, when I control my anger. And do I have to do it in one shot? 40 days, a year, another year, a lifetime. God trusts me, and He gives me a chance again and again and again, because He knows I have the power to change the only person I was capable of changing. It's never too late for me to say sorry. It's never too late for me to become more devoted, loyal, giving, forgiving, generous, considerate, sensitive, listening, understanding, respectful, grateful, appreciative. Long list of the real midot, measures of a human being. The real miracle is when I change me. God created the entire universe for us to change ourselves. The celebration of Rosh Hashanah is a celebration of Bechira, of freedom to choose. How will I change me? Is it want? Is it need? Or is it must? And what are my musts? In my health, in my wealth, in my family, in me. I'll close, and I truly mean it. 3 mothers on Broadwalk. I don't know if you've heard this one before. Please be mochel. Please forgive me if you have. If you have, then don't worry, it's good review. 3 mothers on Broadwalk, Ashkenazim, and they are... Mrs. Goshlevsky is boasting to Mrs. Horowitz, is boasting to Mrs. Cohen, how much their son gives them respect on their birthday. So Mrs. Goshlevsky is saying to Ms. Horowitz, you want, I tell you what my son does for me on my birthday, you don't want to know. I tell you anyway. My son on my birthday, I get a knock on the door. I open the door, and there's my son, 6'4", gives me a hug, happy birthday, destroy my ribs. I open my eyes, and there at the end of the driveway is a limousine. They stretch it, I know how they stretch it so far. And he takes me into the limousine to the most expensive kosher restaurant in Manhattan, and there, waiting for me, all my friends and family had a party to my birthday. My son loves me so much. And she turns to Miss Horowitz, and how does your son show you respect on your birthday? You don't want to know. I tell you anyway. My son on my birthday, I get a knock on the door, and then my son, he takes me to JFK, and he puts me on the Concorde. He charters the Concorde just for me, and I arrive 2 hours, 47 minutes later in London, and there, my son, he taxis me to the Ritz Hotel. The Ritz Hotel for kings, queens, and princes takes me to the Ritz Hotel. I arrive at the Ritz Hotel, and they're waiting for me. And Mrs. Horowitz and Mrs. Koslewski both turned to Mrs. Cohen, who everyone knows has zero relationship with her son. They have not been talking for years. And Mrs. Cohen, how does your son show you respect on your birthday? So Mrs. Cohen says, "Ah, birthday, schmirthday, respect, schmeckt. My son, he doesn't have to wait for no birthday to show me respect. My son pays $250 an hour, 5 times a week to his therapist, and all he talks about is me." I can spend my life analyzing and blaming and complaining about my parents, my teachers, and my education. Such a rotten family ruined my life. And I can blame and complain and accuse, deny and excuse for a long time why my family ruined my life. Someone once asked me for a definition of a dysfunctional family. I said, that's easy. A definition of a dysfunctional family is any family with more than one member. I can spend my life blaming the world, but God waits me out. Erech Apayim. He's patient. He trusts me that He'll give me more than 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 chances to squeeze me again and again and again till I become the miracle and change me. Thank you for your patience.